In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
But I do ask every publisher, every editor, and every newsman in the nation to re-examine his own standards and to recognize the nature of our country's peril. In time of war, the government and the press have customarily joined in an effort based largely on self-discipline to prevent unauthorized disclosures to the enemy. In times of clear and present danger, the courts have held that even the privileged rights of the First Amendment must yield to the public's need for national security. Today, no war has been declared, and however fierce the struggle may be, it may never be declared in the traditional fashion. Our way of life is under attack. Those who make themselves our enemy are advancing around the globe. The survival of our friends is in danger, and yet no war has been declared. No borders have been crossed by marching troops. No missiles have been fired. If the press is awaiting a declaration of war before it imposes the self-discipline of combat conditions, then I can only say that no war ever posed a greater threat to our security. If you are awaiting a finding of clear and present danger, then I can only say that the danger has never been more clear, and its presence has never been more imminent.
It's time to recognize that we've come to a turning point. We're threatened with an economic calamity of tremendous proportions, and the old business-as-usual treatment can't save us. Together, we must chart a different course. We must increase productivity. That means making it possible for industry to modernize and make use of the technology which we ourselves invented. That means putting Americans back to work, and that means, above all, bringing government spending back within government revenues, which is the only way, together with increased productivity, that we can reduce and, yes, eliminate inflation.
The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
Hello, and welcome back to Inform America. My name is Rich Merritt, your host. A couple of things I want to get out of the way first. I want to talk about the nationallibertyalliance.org. Please go to their site and help them out. Sign up as a member, help them out, and get an education for you and your children. I'm not just saying this, it really is a phenomenal civics education. I can't say enough about it. And you go into one website to look it up, and they've done it for you instead of going to 50 different ones. So check it out, see what you think. If you can donate some time or money, please do so. This is for saving America. Secondarily, I'll ask that you go to the Boston Broadside newspaper. I don't get paid for doing this. I just happen to believe that they have some honesty and integrity in their news reporting, and I don't know what else can you ask for. I don't trust a lot of news agencies, especially the lamestream media, but check out the Boston Broadside. Let's help them grow. I mean, if you like the truth, let's honor them. That's the Boston Broadside. And lastly, I would like people to check out my book, Stand Your Ground. I've had a lot of people tell me it's a nice book. It's a nice read, easy read. You don't need a dictionary beside you to look it up, and I didn't want it that way. But check it out. We'll put up a flyer at the end. If you click on the link, it'll take you to it. You can check it out for yourself. So thank you for doing that. Now we'll get started with the show, which is on consent. Joining me today, first of all, is my co-host, Wylene Poliquin. Welcome, Wylene.
Thank you, Richie.
And we're going to get started on consent because I believe it to be, it goes hand in hand with ignorance. Our ignorance is causing us to consent to things that we do not have to consent to. And we're going to demonstrate that right here and now. So with that, if we could have up the first attachment, and if Wylene, you could pick up on it, we'll go from there.
All right. So, okay, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5. To coin money, regulate the value thereof, and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures.
Okay, the comment that I have for that is simply that this happened a long, long time ago. Okay, 1913, when they turned it over to the Federal Reserve. Congress has the right to coin money and regulate the value thereof. If you look at Article 10, which Wylene is going to get to in a second, it basically says that if the power is not delegated to the United States, then they don't have it. They can't fabricate it. Well, nobody gave them the authority to give the right to regulate money away. Yet they did in 1913, 106 years ago. And that's why the banks today and the Rothschilds and all these big families that run this planet have the power and the money that they have. We consented to it.
Amendment 10. The power is not delegated to the United States.
Can I just interrupt you? This is an important point. The powers, this is Article 10, the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, but if you listen to the wording of it, the power's not delegated to the United States. Well, the power delegated to the United States is the Constitution. So if there's nothing in there, they can't do it. If it's not listed in there, they can't do it. But the power not delegated to the United States, what is the United States? By the Constitution. Is the United States the states? Yes and no. See, it meant, when they first intentionally started the Constitution, it intended to mean the states united. Okay? It's been perverted since then, and now it simply means the United States, it's a corporation. So the Constitution doesn't apply to the United States. It's a corporation. It's not a government anymore. In 1871, it disappeared. 1871, I said that correctly, with the Organic Act of 1871. If you check it out, you'll find out that I'm telling the truth. But it's very important to understand the power not delegated to the United States by the Constitution. That's the only authority they have. So if you look at Article 1, Section 8, which is 18 defined and limited powers, immigration, roads, post office, weights and measures, the coining money and regulating the value thereof, this is all very limited powers. Now, if you look at the EPA, the CIA, the FBI, the DEA, the whole alphabet soup, the BLM, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. None of them are authorized by law. But the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, isn't it? Well, if it is, none of this garbage is, I don't even know how to put it. It means nothing. It means nothing because it isn't authorized by law. Well, if it isn't authorized by law, why do we agree or abide by it? Because we're consenting to it. Oh, the EPA says this. Okay, we have to abide by it. Oh, the FBI says this. We have to abide by it. They're not even authorized in law to do anything. We are the sovereign class of people in the United States. And if we don't start understanding that, and I'll bring up a couple of points later, what you can do. But for right now, I'm sorry, go back to the 10th Amendment, please.
Okay. I love that alphabet soup. Okay. By the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people.
Simple enough. Whatever we don't delegate to the United States, it's reserved for the states. Mm-hmm. And if it isn't reserved for the states, then it's the people. The language is very, very clear.
Yes, but it confuses a lot of people.
It shouldn't.
But it does.
It shouldn't. If you read it word for word and understand the wording.
But I think that they do that on purpose to confuse people. Because people are simple.
No, what we do and it'll be explained in your next move when you talk about the definitions. We assume that we know what words are.
Right.
And me too, by the way.
But we also
no different.
we take for granted that our government and our legal system are out to do right by us.
We trust them.
We
yeah.
trust them, exactly. And exactly what they're not doing is doing right by us.
Yeah, because we've allowed, I don't even know, I'll use the word communism, but we have allowed communism. You've got, what's his name? I can't even think his name, but Brzezinski is one. That guy, can't stand his name. The Secretary of State under Nixon. I can't.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, God.
Anyway.
Senior moment.
Yeah. We've allowed a lot of people to come into our system who
Yeah.
are communists and spew their garbage and aim us in a direction we shouldn't be in. But because of our ignorance of the law, we consent to it.
Yep.
And we don't put up a stink. I don't know whether we can unconsent to anything now and effectively make a change, but I think it's worthy of trying. So I just wanted to point
Right?
that out.
No, amen. And that's why I kind of wanted to point out the fact that we do this out of trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, we do it out of trust. So, the average income 100 years ago was $1,033. A gallon of gas cost 7 cents, and a loaf of bread 5 cents. A medium-priced home was $2,750. Median and average price of a house, $286,600. $346,300.
That's for 2015,
Yep,
correct?
and
All
that
right.
was March 2015.
No, the reason that I brought that up is that it goes hand in hand with Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5, where the money situation. Once we
Yep.
turned it over to the banks, they control inflation and deflation. When it was backed by gold and silver, and you can go back and check the charts anywhere you want to, it was a pretty much flat line. There were some, inconsistencies. But the dollar was sound. You could go to the store and buy a loaf of bread, a dozen eggs, and a half a gallon of milk, and give the guy a quarter
Yep.
100 years ago, and get change back. All right. Today, I don't even want to get into what it cost, but look at the price of a house: $2,750 100
Right.
years ago, and in 2015, it's 340. That's the average now, not the median, but the average: $346,000.
Yeah.
And I can tell you I bought a house. Oh, I don't even know what it was now. 2005. I don't remember when it was. I think it was 2005. And I paid $205,000. It wasn't worth $100. But I looked at so many houses, I caved in. I can't handle this shit. Pardon my French, but
No, serious.
but the houses aren't worth it. And today
No.
they're $300,000, $500,000, and they're not worth it.
And they're not built like they were back in the day.
My advice to people is, especially you young people, you don't need to be saddled with a $500,000 mortgage. Don't buy the house. Let the prices come down because people aren't buying them.
Right.
Oh, geez, that's going to hurt the market. Well, who do you want to hurt, the market or you?
Right. Look at the foreclosure market. Go look at the foreclosure market and buy there.
Well, they talk about the stock market. The stock market is for rich people. It's not for me and you. And if
Right.
there's a lot of people out there, and I don't think there is, but if there's a lot of people out there, average people making money on the stock market, let me know, because I don't think that exists.
No, I actually do have a little money in Fidelity right now, and it's been sitting there, and I'm being honest right
Stagnant,
now.
yeah.
Okay, I've had $100 sitting in my money, $100. That's my cash since like June. Okay,
Yeah.
it has fluctuated between 100 and 102. It finally just made it up to 102 and maybe a little change. And it's fluctuated between that 100 and finally the 102 between June and now.
Here's a classic example.
And it just goes boop, boop, boop.
And it doesn't matter who.
I just want to take it out of there.
It doesn't matter who, Wylene, but I'm saying when President Obama was president he would always say, oh, we're going to have to do something with the guns. We're going to have to take the guns away. Now think about this. I'm not saying him. He did it a lot. All you got to do as president is say, I'm going to buy stock in the arms company. And then I'm going to threaten the American people with taking their guns away. What's the first thing Americans do? They run out and buy guns, which drives up the stock price.
Right.
And they're sitting there going, sell my stock. I just made $100,000. You're talking about $2. They're
Right.
making 10, 50, 100, maybe 200. I don't know how much they make, but a bundle of money
Right.
compared to me and you.
Right. Right.
And that's the thing that we have to get away from is consent. All of it is consent. We
Right.
consented to the money being taken from us, and now we're sitting back with inflation and deflation. I'll give you an example. You got $1. There's $10 in circulation. Here's $1. You own 1/10 of all the money in the country. Well, you go to bed at night and you figure, Jesus, I got 10% of all the money in the country. During the night, the Federal Reserve Bank says we got to print $1,000 more because we don't have enough. So they print $1,000 more. Now you've got 1/1000th of all the money. Did you gain money during the night or did you lose money? You lost it, big time, because they printed more money. Your dollar isn't worth as much as it was the night before. That's inflation. That's what goes on every day of the week. And it's been going on for 106 years, and that's why houses cost $346,000.
Right.
I don't know if I explained it well, but I certainly hope so.
No, definitely.
What do we
So-
have next?
Okay. Consenting through ignorance, is that what we're moving on to?
Yes.
Driver's license, marriage license, gun permit, building permit, etc. Permit
Yeah.
to assemble.
A marriage license, the first time it was ever instituted was back during the Civil War. And whoever was running the country at the time says, we don't want minorities marrying white people. So we have to come out with a marriage license. You can substantiate this yourself. Look up the facts. I'm not making it up. And that's what they did. They started this thing, and it worked so well because they were bringing in money. They says, you know something? Why don't we have all people get a marriage license? So they did. And now we all get, you don't need one. That's, people talk about a common law marriage. You get married in the eyes of God, or you're supposed to anyway, and you commit to your spouse. So you make a pledge.
Right.
In God's eyes, I will stay with you. I will be faithful to you. Well, now you get married in the eyes of the state, not God. You're asking for their permission. And as soon as you do that, they have a little bit of equity in your children, which is why they take them away whenever they want. If you're not doing the right thing, it's all based on our consent. Driver's license. You absolutely have the right to travel in America. Any mode you see fit, not the government. They're your public servants, not your public masters. So if you want to travel, you travel. It's real simple. But our police are ignorant of that matter. I don't know if the attorneys are or they're not, but I got to suspect that they're not. And the courts are obviously part of the corruption because they just keep raking in money. It's all about money, not about justice. I'm saying this because it's the marriage license, the driver's license, what else? The
Gun permit,
Gun
building permit,
okay.
permit to assemble.
Why do you need a permit? You want to put a addition on your house. Why do you need a permission from the government to do that? Isn't it your house? And please don't tell me about, well, you don't want to offset this or you don't want to infringe upon your neighbor. Nobody's going to do that in their right mind. We know that. And besides, if you did it, you're on your neighbor's property, they're going to own it. So, but the whole idea is that we consent to it. There's no way under God's green earth that you have to. My contention is that people stop consenting to all of this garbage, it'll stop. But we have to do it jointly, not one or two of us here or there. So like the Browns did, they've refused to pay their taxes, which you don't have to pay on your time and labor. They've been in jail now, I think, for 12 years. For doing what? Refusing to pay the Federal Reserve Bank, the Rothschilds' money? Yeah, they have the power to kill you. They have the power to put you in jail. It still doesn't make it right. There's no law compelling you to pay a tax on it, but we consent to it through fear. It goes on and on. I want to get to the definition.
It's sad. You want the definition of
Please.
license?
License and permit, yeah.
License, one to whom a license is granted. Let's see. License, grant formal authorization to do what would be illegal to do without it.
That was a noun and a verb, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
License, verb. Grant formal authorization to do what would be illegal to do without it.
Okay, so you're applying for a license
Yes.
to the government, and they're granting you the authority.
Right. And then the noun is one to whom a license is granted.
And the only point that, well, there's a lot of points, but I'll just stick with this. If the government cannot turn a right into a privilege, they can't. The law says so. There's supporting documentation. Murdoch versus Pennsylvania, check it out. The other one escapes me now, I'm sorry, but check that one out anyway. Go to Carl Miller, you'll find out he's got it pretty well documented. They can't turn a right into a privilege, but the reason that it has happened that way is we consent to it.
We're all going and getting our licenses.
Right. I need a license to drive. No one ever said to me when I was 16, hey, you got to get a license because it's the law. No one ever said that. Not the government. But because everybody else had a driver's license, my older friends or my brothers, oh, geez, I got to get a license. It's conditioning right here.
And they say they say that driving is a privilege. They do teach that. They do teach you that driving is a privilege.
It's a privilege in commerce.
But you
not
know,
to travel.
As you're growing up, because I remember this when I was growing up, even before I turned 16. You know, and because I was like you say, conditioned. I had to grow up, learn to drive to get my license because driving was a privilege. It was not a right.
And I'll just say this. My father, who's deceased now, God bless him, but in 1932, he was 12 years old, and he drove a garbage truck for the city, for the town.
Wow, 12.
No license, age 12. Wow. That's a fact. Because in 1932, there were no driver's licenses in America. It came out in 1933. And my father drove a dump truck. So I know you didn't need it. He drove a car. Well, I know of a kid at 6 years old up in Alaska who drove a bulldozer to plow snow because his father had broken his back.
Wow.
There's all kinds of things. I don't want to go down some rocky
amazing.
road. It is.
That's amazing.
It is. And you don't need a license, but the police will tell, this guy, Richie Merritt, he's crazy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. No, I do know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. You're the one that doesn't know the law, right. And you're aiding the corrupt courts in this country by enforcing statutes that don't apply to the people. Check out Article 5, Section 2, Part 2nd, whatever you call it, of the state constitution.
5 minutes left, Reggie.
And you'll see for yourself.
Right.
All right, go ahead.
And permit? Okay, permit. It's verb. It says, let pass, let go, let loose, to give up, hand over. Let, allow, grant, permit.
Allow, grant, and permit. I mean, that's how simple can you be? You're applying for a permit to the government. The Second Amendment says you have the right to carry a gun to defend yourself, your family, your property, period. Not, well, if the government says different. No. The people ratified the Constitution. They determine what the law is because the people make the law. Even 2019, the people still make the law. You want to amend the Constitution, it has to be brought before the people. So does the Constitution exist or not? I say yes, it does exist. Because otherwise you wouldn't have to do that. But the people have to stop their ignorance and stop consenting to this. Otherwise, nothing is ever going to change.
Right.
And I wanted to, I don't know where we're at now.
Article 1, equality of men. All men are born equally free and independent. Therefore, all government of right originates from the people, is founded in consent, and instituted for the general good.
So all government is right originates from the people and is founded in consent.
And instituted for the general good.
Okay, so it says it right there. Consent is founded in consent. If you don't consent, guess what? The legislature doesn't make the laws. The people make the laws. So if you don't consent to it, you don't consent. But you are consenting to the driver's license, the marriage license, and gun permits, and all these other things that you don't have to do because we're ignorant.
Right.
The last thing I want to touch upon, and I might be jumping here, but it's the Fourth Amendment.
No. And you're not jumping. It's the
All right,
last
the
thing.
Fourth Amendment, I work down at a little airport here, and every day, 20 minutes intervals, what I hear is this. For security reasons and for your protection, the TSA has determined that you can't carry certain objects past the security checkpoint. And then it goes on and rambles on and says, all bags are subject to search. Well, if you're looking at Article 4, which we're not, there we go. We're looking at Article 4, the Fourth Amendment in the United States Constitution, which, by the way, the TSA is supposed to be, they're the federal government, all right? They're an agency of the federal government. They're bound by this. It says right in there, you have to have a warrant. It has to be signed in wet ink by a judge. It doesn't say wet ink, but you can't use a rubber stamp. Anybody can take a signature stamp and stamp a name on it. Okay, and it has to be supported by oath or affidavit, and it's basically founded in probable cause, which is a high standard. If a cop stops you for probable cause and they don't have it, in other words, they were wrong, you can sue them. They're liable for that. That's why they use that standard. They want to make damn sure that if a cop stops you, you're guilty. Now, secondly, I listen to this at the airport all the time. Just because the TSA says you're subject to search doesn't mean you're subject to search. The law says differently. Now, did they grant some authority to the TSA that I'm unaware of? Because it isn't in the Constitution. Matter of fact, the TSA isn't in the Constitution. They don't exist. You want to consent to being searched? I mean, if you stopped for one day, and says the airlines, you're not going to search me, or the TSA, it would end.
2 minutes left.
It would end, just like that. The other thing I want to mention, because this happened to me last weekend, I went into a pharmacy, and I know this isn't the government. I went into a pharmacy to get a prescription filled. And I paid the girl for it, and she said, you're going to have to sign this little electronic box here. And I said, what for? She said, HIPAA. And I said, well, I'm not going to sign anything for HIPAA. Why would I sign something for HIPAA? HIPAA doesn't apply to me. It applies to you. And she goes, well, the pharmacist came over and says, well, if you don't sign it, you don't get your prescription. I says, give me my money back. You just lost the sale. Now, regardless of what the prescription was, because I know some people, might need, it could be urgent or whatever. My whole point is this. HIPAA applies to them. They're supposed to protect my information. So why am I signing for anything? And I'm signing an electronic box that says nothing. I don't know what it's attached to. They're telling me it's HIPAA. I don't know. You sure it isn't a release saying we're not going to hold you responsible for HIPAA so they can turn the information over to the federal government? Because I don't know.
1 minute.
But I'm telling you, stop consenting. Same thing happened to me in my apartment. Okay? They give me a lease and they say, sign this box. And I goes, where's the lease? Well, you saw the lease, it's right. I said, no. Scroll down and let me see on the They couldn't do it. I says, well, I ain't signing that then. And they got me I don't know what it was, 10, 12-page lease, and I signed it. I got no problem signing it. If I know what I'm signing, stop signing the electronic boxes, stop consenting. Having said that, thank you, Wylene, for being on.
My pleasure.
Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Like us on Facebook. Check out the inform-america.org website. Like us, please. And if you have the time, check out my book. I appreciate you watching. Thank you. Stop consenting.